Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, I didn't know anything about The Last Airbender. Then, everything changed when my best friend said, let's do a podcast. We could call it Avatar State Radio. 6,953 days had passed before I discovered Avatar. Not the Blue Cats, but a 19-year-old cartoon. Like Aang, I have a lot to learn, but I believe I'll love Avatar The Last Airbender. Welcome to this week's edition of Avatar State Radio. I am your host, Kev. Not just your host, but the last... Oh, God. I can't... Podbender, that's it.
And I am the great Avatar.
Listen.
Also known as Mr. Avatar State Worldwide.
The season finale episodes here were such a doozy. So many notes that I got here that I forgot that I wasn't the last I was going to say Podatar, but that's not it.
Right.
It's Podbender.
Podbender. Now this is podbending.
Yes. I think I was thrown off by the 10 to 20 minutes of troubleshooting we did.
Oh, yeah, that didn't amount to anything.
Right. Maybe I'm a little bit louder for you. That's about it.
Right. We circled back to the start.
Yes, yeah. But so the way it goes in the world of podcasting, folks, if you're out there, don't worry. This is just a normal day for you. We're going to be talking about the Siege of the North, part 1 and part 2 in this episode. This episode is both 19 and 20, the season finale of Avatar: The Last Airbender, book 1, Water. Not the season finale of season 1 of the podcast. We got a couple more episodes up our sleeves, but we'll get to that near the end here. I think we just need to kick it off with, I think, one of the best ways that they could have opened this episode, especially after what we witnessed last week with
Sokka and Yue.
Yes, yeah. Well, no, I'm sorry. That's not how it opened, right? No, it opened. So I mean, in general, with how like last week's episode was like very like, you're a woman, you can't.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I'm sorry.
And it
cuts the gun.
And like, now to be fair, it did end with Paku, right? That's his name.
Master Paku, yeah.
Okay, Paku, it did end with him, like, obviously being more open to the idea because Katara was now a student. So this week it opens with her not just being a student, but I have to imagine some time has passed because she is kicking butt, taking out practically every other student to the point where when Paku is talking to her about how like quickly she's mastered the art of water bending, it cuts to Aang, who is just sitting there playing with Momo and
right,
other pets,
and not quite doing as good a job as Katara, turning himself into a snowman and everything.
Yes, and you know what's really fascinating about that is when we first are introduced to the idea of Katara and Aang learning water bending together, she was such a novice that when she was helping Aang learn, he picked it up so easily that she felt bad like for herself, and she felt like dejected. But now it's he's maybe like progressed a little bit under Paku's teaching, but like she's she's so far superior than Aang is when it comes to water bending.
Right. Yeah. She went like, there's like patterns to the way that you can see like people improve. Like if you were going to do like a dot, like matrix and figure out like where she started and where she ended up, she had like a very small kind of like parabolic like lead up, but her power has improved greatly since she got to the Water Tribe and had someone to actually train her, because she's not had that benefit.
Right.
I feel like Aang's powers are a little bit more intuitive, and he was able to kind of, reach those first steps a little easier. But it wasn't until, Katara um, got into the water tribe and started learning, where you got to see the difference between how far the two of them go.
Yeah, and you know, she obviously progresses on her own. Um, you know, prior to these episodes where they're back in the where they're in the North Pole now.
Right. Yeah, because
Um,
otherwise, how would she have held her own as well as she did against Paku
right,
last week?
right, exactly. So she's progressed enough. But you know, being properly taught by a master waterbender, and you know, someone who now I would say that like I don't have a comment for the rest of the Society of Northern water people, waterbenders here, but Paku for sure has almost done a complete 180 as a person, where like he doesn't seem so cruel anymore. I mean, he's
Right.
still got that like attitude about him where he's
Yeah,
just like,
he's got a little bit of arrogance to him, you know, and you kind of see that in a couple of places in the Northern Water Tribe.
yeah, and I feel like the arrogance that I'm like, you know, basically referring to is how like he's talking about Aang. But that's well deserved.
Right. And
Like
he
Aang
kind of
is
mentions it
kind of
to a
goofing
couple of
off.
his warriors that he's been training as well.
Sure.
You know, you figure they've been training for a long time with him, and Katara has just eclipsed all of them and made them, you know, really seem like second rate compared to her,
Right.
which is great for the future of the show, because we should see a character who has a lot more ability now
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
mix some stuff up.
Yeah, and it's I think it just kind of falls in line with everything that we've learned, you know, in the last like, you know, 5 to, you know, 8 episodes about um water bending. Very specifically that like, yeah, you know, Zhang called her a very powerful bender because she has the power to heal. And so it kind of like everything that like was my complaint about Master Paku last week, not wanting to train Katara and her being supposedly this powerful waterbender because she can heal, kind of comes full circle in a great way this week because and these, you know, last 2 episodes of the season, because it you know, we really see Katara kind of fall into her own in these 2 episodes. And I do want to, I know we're kind of, I'm mentioning the 2 episodes quite often in the first 7 minutes of this episode, but I think our plan is to try to focus on the first episode, part
Yeah,
1
within the
here.
first half of this two-parter.
Yes. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'll tell you, you know, looking at our recording sessions over the last few weeks, like they've been getting a little bit longer. And I think that's just, you know, showing you the quality of the episodes and really them leading up to not an end game, right? But like an end game for this arc.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you figure we have been talking for a long time about filler episodes and things like that, and slowly but surely we have been inching towards this. There's some things that are coming full circle that we saw in the beginning, like finally getting Aang a master to teach him, and you know, stepping out of just learning, just knowing airbending and being prepared to do other things, and then as well seeing, you know, Sokka learn from some of the things that he's done in the past. See Katara come into her waterbending. Like there's a lot of things that are coalescing in this 2-part finale.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of Sokka, you know, the I would say the A story here is really, you know, about defending, and it's really across both episodes, defending the Northern Water Tribe from the, you know, oncoming Fire Nation attack. And then we continue our B story with Sokka and Yue, and that little love interest that we have going on. And then I would say, really, very much so, just like last week, like the C and D stories are still kind of similar. I'd probably bump up Zhao's story
Yeah,
to
yeah.
I guess the A story, because I mean he's now
I
the
think you have like they're all starting to intersect.
yes,
So yeah,
exactly.
so you've got, you know, like if Zhao was a D story and Aang and Katara were the A story, you've got an AD, and then you've got a little bit of Zuko, who's showing back up and trying to get to the Avatar before Zhao gets to, ultimately wipe out the Water Tribe. And you still like you see how big the Water Tribe is, and like you think to
Yeah.
yourself, I know that there was a lot of ships and everything, but like we haven't seen anything on their level to really see how they're going to pull this off. And we do see like early on like the black ash falling, and they, Momo thinks that it's snow and takes a lick of it and everything. So you know that there's like world changing things happening here with the size of the fleet of the Fire Nation. But it isn't until like that first like fireball sails across the sky and like destroys a big chunk of that ice wall
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that you really get a sense of how big this is.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, like I feel like this part one episode does a really good job at taking that, what we've been calling the A, C, and D stories, and kind of intermingling them into like the A story. And truthfully, I think that B story of Sokka and Yue, it remains a B story for this episode, but truthfully, just to jump ahead a little bit, it kind of intermingles into the A story by the end of this season.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a big part, and I guess it had to kind of upgrade itself somewhat, because otherwise Sokka takes a back seat to a lot of stuff. Like we did have early on when the Fire Nation is kind of beginning their attack and they know that they're going to have to get involved. They have that little thing where Sokka basically says, well, if I'm not going to be able to be with you, like I'm going to go fight, and then gets kind of brought up to be a part of like the raiding party that's going to go and try and kill Admiral Choi.
Yeah. So there's we jumped ahead a little bit, but there is Sokka. I think by way of making him, out of all the people other than the rest of the gang, have had interactions with the Fire Nation versus these people who haven't had interactions with the Fire Nations for decades, nearly 100 years.
Yeah, they said 85 years.
85 years. So it really does help make him be a more important part of the story, much like, and we mentioned earlier, like some of the filler stories, that really there's, out of all the filler stories we've had, there is maybe one that you could say you don't really need to make this season work.
Yeah, it kind of didn't contribute at all to like the growth of the characters,
right?
Like
but while the other filler stories, I think, attributed to the growth of the characters, as you just said, and specifically like the what was it, the Northern Air Temple or whatever, where Sokka shows off like he's a good, like he's a tactician, like
right. He's inventive, he knows his strategy. And he gets to kind of show off a little bit of that here. Maybe not that much, because he does get taken off the mission, so to speak, but he's able to at least mention like, hey, you guys are so outdated with like the costume choices and everything. Like they don't do the shoulder spikes anymore. And correct me if I'm wrong, and it might not have even been in the first episode, but like we see Han still in that costume later when he tries to attack Zhao.
Yes, we 100% see that in, I think it's the next episode.
Yeah,
but
there's so much, like, again, because it's so cohesive, these two episodes. Yeah. And I watch my episodes the night before. It's so difficult for me to remember like where everything landed. I very much know like once you get to the pool, that was, well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So, and so even before we get into where Sokka volunteers for the raiding party, we do have this, and even before the soot starts falling from the sky and mixing with the snow, we have this like cute little scene between Sokka and Yue, that really kind of continues to establish the fact that like they have feelings for each other. But they're trying to be friends. When she kind of pushes away a little bit, Sokka's like, wait, let me introduce you to my good friend Appa.
Yeah.
And they go for a flight, and almost kiss during that. and just a really like sweet moment with these two characters who in such a short amount of time. And again, I would say that between the episode 18 and 19 here, probably a few days, if not a few weeks, have passed
Right.
because
Otherwise, it kind of loses some of its oomph
yes,
because I mean, and there is, and they're young, and young love is kind of, it springs and it blooms quickly. So like you could say that that was kind of what it was. But it is nice to kind of think of like the time off screen as time that could have developed a little better and
right,
had
right.
like a nicer kind of more organic feel.
Right. And it makes sense because like the Fire Nation in the end of last episode had just left wherever they were leaving. And I don't care what world you're in when you are on basically a sailboat, and maybe it's a little powered or something, but when you're on a boat like that, it takes time to get to point A and then to point B.
Right. Woof, woof,
Hey,
woof.
hey, Charlotte, I get it. I'm upset with the Firebenders too and the Fire Nation. But like now's not the time to scream about it. No, hey, the Fire Nation, they suck. I get it. We're talking about it. You done? All right. I think she's done voicing her opinion. What's funny is I don't hear it in my headphones, so I don't know if it's actually getting picked up.
I mean, I can hear it.
Okay.
So
anyway,
and I'm sure that you would hear if our doggies was barking too.
It's happy. Hey, folks! This is this Avatar State Radio podcast. We are a podcast for everyone, not just boys, not just girls, not just every gender in between, but for dogs too. Okay, and for Appa sky bisons and for flying lemurs. All animals are welcome.
For our seal turtles.
Seal turtles, yes. So and this is where again, like Sokka gets to show his and I think everyone knows what it means when the ash and the soot starts mixing with the snow. But
yeah, I would imagine like he knows pretty quick. I would imagine that Aang and Katara could probably put 2 and 2 together,
and the adults.
Yeah, but even then, like it's been 85 years since they've had to deal with something like that. Like, right. But I feel like Sokka knew pretty quickly, but he didn't really get to bring it home. Like,
no, he didn't. He just talked to Yue about it.
Yeah, and by the time like he arrived, like everybody kind of already knew, like, hey, war is coming.
Right. Yep. And then we get to the Water Nation. And I'm jumping around a little bit in this episode, but the Water Nation is preparing, while they're kind of, I don't know if they're like fleeing. I guess they're not. I guess everyone's like fleeing to meet, like a town hall almost, to talk about what's happening here.
Yeah, because I don't imagine that anybody fled.
No, they were just all running to like a central location.
Right. Hey, we got to figure out what the next plan, what the next part of this strategy is.
And in that moment is when Sokka and Yue have that conversation where like she goes, "Listen, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm catching feelings for you hard, and I can't even maintain a friendship with you anymore.
Right. I can't look at you anymore. Your stupid face.
Your stupid face is so adorable. I want to kiss it and I can't kiss it." And so she runs off, and that's ultimately what leads. And I don't know, like, I don't want to say that's what leads to Sokka volunteering for the raiding party. I know that's what we're supposed to like really feel like is the reason for it.
I think it is to some extent because it's a little bit of teenage angst. I think there's a part of him too where it's like, hey, like this is the kind of stuff that I'm made for.
Yeah,
and if I'm not going to be with you, I might as well be helpful somewhere else.
Well, and that's the feeling. The feeling I got from him volunteering was a little bit, maybe like, if anything, maybe not showboating is the wrong word, but like,
yeah, like I didn't get like a machismo out of it. It was like it was almost like because he almost seemed like regretful that he had to do it.
See, it just to me that is something he would have done. Like,
yeah, I agree, and maybe it was a regret, not necessarily that like he had to fight, but maybe it was a regret that he couldn't. Like, there's a mishmash of feelings there, because I think ultimately he would have rather been with Yue, and been able to explore what that was.
Right.
but in the moment anyway, there's a very good chance that even if she said, hey, like, I'd want you to be with me, he would have still said, I need to fight. Like,
Yeah. That's just the personality. And early on in the series, that personality was almost to his detriment, where like an annoying that he wanted to fight so hard and fight so bad.
right. There's a more measured take on it now.
Yeah, like, and I don't know, obviously as the series has gone on, they've done a lot to build his character up. And now it feels like that stuff comes from a place of actually wanting to help, versus like, not that he didn't want to help before, but
His ego
overconfidence. Yes.
Yeah.
We also get I think a neat little scene with Aang, a couple neat scenes with him where he talks about you wanting to make a difference for the Water Nation
because of what he failed to do 100 years before.
Yes, he wasn't there to protect his people, so he wants to make a difference here. And that's right around when what you described earlier, when that fireball from the catapult finally gets and strikes the Water Nation's
I
walls.
jumped the gun way too early.
Yep. But that's where that finally happens, and then there's it's not really a big battle, right? Because right now we just see that one boat, and it's Aang and Appa take off right away to go deal with that.
Right. And they do a decent amount on there because they're getting rid of all the catapults.
Such a fun scene. Such a fun scene to watch.
We really get to see Aang in his non-avatar state here, basically utilizing the full breadth of his powers. And his witticisms as well. No, not witticisms, just his wits, because he is doing some very smart things with like calculating where to tie chains up. And like there's a lot of, you don't often get to see him do things that aren't kind of like I almost see a lot of the stuff that he does is kind of like Jackie Chan-esque, where like he just kind of like falls into things. But in this instance, in this episode, we definitely get to see him kind of show that he's more than just a 12-year-old kid with powers. Like he's got some smarts behind him as well.
That's, what, and you said the Jackie Chan comparison, which yes, but I what you just said about him being a 12-year-old kid with powers, that is how he seems to fight for a majority of this series thus far. Maybe not the first time, but off the top of my head, I would say right now in this moment, this is one of the first times that we see him almost take inspirations from Sokka almost and use his smarts and use good strategy in this battle here. Yes, he's using his powers, absolutely, but he's also being smart about how he's destroying these things to help take this boat down, which he obviously doesn't do on his own, because he eventually gets attacked by some guy from the Fire Nation.
Yeah, our hammer bro.
Our hammer guy, which Appa saves Aang in that moment, and then the waterbenders come and finish off that particular ship.
Right, yeah, because they do show up and they kind of like throw it up in the air and everything, which I don't know how long that would really help, because you got to figure your firebenders, you melt that ice a few minutes later.
Right. But if it went through, like, did the ice go? I don't know if it actually went through the ship, but in my mind,
ship,
it should have gone through the ship.
Additionally, we had pieces of the ship just getting completely and utterly destroyed by like misfires from the catapults and things like that. We saw big holes in the hull. So, that ship may very well be, scuttled.
Yeah. Regardless of what the waterbenders did with the ice, I think that ship was done. But then then it pans up and you see the rest of the fleet. You see Aang say something about like, "You got to be kidding me." And then it cuts to like where they're planning for this raiding party, and this is where Sokka gets like, he really shows his value to, and I still don't know if they've named Yue's father or not, so I'm gonna keep calling him the king.
He was Chief Arnook.
Okay, he's the chief. Chief. I'm gonna keep Chief Arnook.
Arnook, yeah.
I'm gonna call him Chief though, or King. I'm telling you now, I'm probably going to say King at least one more time for this guy.
Well, she's a princess. It makes sense.
Right. but yeah, this is where we get him to see, and like earn the chief's respect, because like he's such an asset in what this raiding party could do, that he pairs, like, yes, his future son-in-law, which is where we learn who Han is,
Right.
after the whole back and forth about the uniform. And there's a clear, I mean, I think, again, and for kids, they're not going to realize this, but as adults, I think we know almost right away that this Han guy is going to end up being the engaged partner of UA.
Right. Yeah. There's enough there because we don't see him prior to this episode.
Right.
And he's the only new named character that
Yep.
we were introduced to.
Yep. And so now, because he's clearly also important to, I guess, like the warriors of this tribe. So, and he's, a future son-in-law to the chief. So like he's in charge.
Right.
Han is in charge here.
We also, I just want to jump in because we kind of like smack talked a little bit of this last week, talking about how like, oh, it's not like medieval times where you're marrying England to France or anything like that. UA does briefly mention like, hey, I'm not really into him, but like there's duties that I have. So like clearly there's more like, we saw like 8 people in the Southern Water Tribe, but I feel like it was a limitation of the series. Probably the same thing here. Like you could probably do a whole Game of Thrones season about what's going on in the Northern Water Tribe, but they're focusing on what's important to a young viewer at this point.
Yeah.
Dialing it back.
Based off the way that city is laid out, you can't convince me there's like a real value. Unless there is like another tribe all like that's not there. Like that's like, oh, it's like the Northeastern Water Tribe.
Right.
That Han is part of.
Like for what they were doing with the show, yeah, it does kind of seem silly to be like, well, I've got to marry this guy who I've, you're the chief. What more are you getting out of this?
Exactly.
But I would imagine, like, given more resources, given more whatever, you're able to kind of tell a more cohesive story that kind of works out a little bit better there.
Right.
I am going to stop you 1 second real quick. How bad do you hear that lawnmower outside my house?
I don't hear anything.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, Han's in charge, but Sokka is going to be working closely with him because he is, he knows a lot about current day Fire Nation, specs and tactics
the way that they look, very probably the way that they fight, so that, hey, every time I've encountered them, this is what they've done. So watch out for these kind of maneuvers.
Now we also get right after this, we jump to Iroh, who and Zhao, who Iroh warns about continuing this fight into the nightfall.
Now, this has got to be after Iroh says goodbye to Zuko, right?
No, this is before.
Is it really?
It is. So Iroh, advises halting the attack because of the moon. And this is where we first get the idea that we don't get into like the true like history of the moon and the ocean until maybe a little bit later in this episode, but definitely in the next episode. All we know at this point is that the moon helps give the powers that the waterbenders have.
Right, and it makes sense because you got the Fire Nation who are gaining their power from the comet, and water. The ocean has the tidal forces, which are interlinked with the moon and everything. It makes a lot of sense.
Right. So that's where we first hear it about the moon. There's a quick cut to Aang that we'll get to in a second, but then we do get that another cut to Iroh down below. He runs into Zuko, and what another like great little scene, an emotional scene with these two characters.
I was turning to Rihanna then because it was an emotional moment. Like I don't think Iroh up to this point has really mentioned number one his son.
Never. This is the first time.
And then to basically say like, hey, you're basically you're the closest thing that I've had to a son.
Yeah.
And it's very emotional. I turned to her and I was like, Kev's gonna love this.
Yep. It is, and God, a quick scene, and even for Zuko, it gets a little emotional. But yeah, well, it was it, they really make it hard for you to root against these two.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think the thing that they did well was they're not one-off villains or anything like that where you only saw once. Like having them be a part of the series thus far, and seeing them grow as well. Like, yes, we've seen Sokka, Katara, Aang, like change. Like we've seen the dynamic twists that they've gone on, but to some extent, like we've seen it happen with. I mean, Iroh's been pretty static. Like he's always been there for his boy Zuko. But Zuko, he's become a lot more patient. He's become a lot more, he's not as driven by, hey, I need to do this, as let's be smart about it.
Right.
And in ways that are very similar to the way Sokka was. Like, yes, I'm sure there's still a bit of ego there and everything. He is still a bad guy, and you have to have some traits that are not ideal for that. But it is just still like you've seen some growth in him, even if he is still a bad guy.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like ever since the Blue Spirit episode is really when we've seen, and maybe a little before then, but for sure since the Blue Spirit episode, I think we've seen a lot of growth from Zuko.
Yeah.
Specifically when it comes to that patience. And
he's not growly all the time anymore. You can get like some softer moments from him.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And so right around when the Fire Nation, Zuko takes off to infiltrate the Water Tribe so that he can try to kidnap the Avatar. And this is right around when the Fire Nation drops anchor, because Zhao, despite being a huge jerk and kind of like overconfident, he does realize Iroh is right, and that they're going to drop anchor and like wait and regroup in the morning. And this is when Aang like comes back from fighting, and he's just so depressed,
right?
Because
you are right. He's absolutely depressed because he knows, hey, like it doesn't matter if I just six?
He said a dozen. He said a dozen ships that he just wiped out. There are still so many more, and he's just one kid.
Right. And he's wiped out. I don't think it's just depression. I think it's legit. Like that's got to take it out of you, Avatar or not.
Yeah, especially because like he's not using his Avatar powers. I mean, he's
thus far we haven't seen him go Avatar state.
Right. He is literally using what he can do on his own. And we still don't know what happens when he's fully trained, if those Avatar, like when he goes Avatar state, if he's in control or if it's still, just all the past lives that work together. But regardless, yeah, he's wiped. He's depressed. He's feeling it. And then we also cut to is it like a workout scene? Am I mistaken in that, where like Han and Sokka and the Raiders are like working out / preparing for their raid?
Maybe it was more not like to work out, but to like showboat, maybe like, hey, I'm stronger than you. I don't know.
It really felt like they were like, and maybe it's because so much else has happened, not only in this episode, but in part 2. I literally, in my head, they were on, and I know this isn't accurate, but they were like on exercise bikes.
I don't recall. The more important part of that scene was, of course, the grumbling between Sokka and Han, yes, and then ultimately getting Sokka pulled from Team Raider, much to his chagrin.
Yeah. So they fight. I mean, and it's because Han is a super jerk about his fiance. Like he doesn't love Yue.
Yeah, he's in it just for the duty of it as well. Maybe a little bit because like, hey, I'm going to be the next chief basically if this happens.
Right. Like there is definitely a sense of him and his family are benefiting way more than Yue and the chief.
Right? Like there's something mystical about Yue because of, and we learn more about it later, but like there's nobody else there that really has like the kind of appeal that she does. So like Han being the grumpy jerk that he is, it doesn't seem like a match made in heaven from any perspective.
Right, right. And what's interesting about the post fight when Sokka gets taken off, obviously at first it seems like, her dad's taking him off because Sokka is going to be trouble here. Like I don't want him, like this is not going to work well. But I think that the because while they're physically fighting, like Sokka's like verbally, taking him to town about the way he's treating Yue and how, he doesn't deserve her and stuff like that. And I really do think that when we later find out that, the chieftain took him off the special that raid for a special mission to guard Yue, like I think he did that for a purpose. Like I think trusts Yue's life more in Sokka's hands than Han's hands.
Oh yeah. I mean, because in theory, I mean, would it have benefited Han to have Yue be around longer? Probably, because the marriage hasn't happened or anything like that. But like you can tell, because Han doesn't care as much as Sokka.
Mhm.
So I was going to go into a big long diatribe about things, but we're not going to go into that. Well, you want to be there. You want to be in the foxhole with someone who cares about you, not not someone who cares more about themselves.
Right. We get before we get to some stuff with like Katara, Yue, and Aang. There's a quick cut to Zuko, who makes his way to the and hides. Like he makes sure he's not spotted, but he makes his way to the northern tribe just outside their city walls. And then again, I mean, this is it's so quick. It's such a nothing scene, but it shows how smart he is, where we see the seal turtles that go into this little puddle of ice and swim away. And he's like, They clearly are going somewhere to breathe.
Yeah, they're not just hanging out at the bottom of this thing. And if they are, like, they're just coming right back up. So it's not like I can't do the same.
Right.
So he finds his back way through
mm-hmm.
and ends up, I don't think anybody else would have been able to maybe do what he did, because he does have the ability to kind of like breathe life back into him with the breath of fire, as Iroh calls it.
Right. I think maybe a waterbender, if I don't know if a waterbender could like create a pocket of air by pushing water away, but like an airbender, and there's only one airbender who could create a pocket of air around him before to go in the water. And especially Aang, who is now both, he can at least bend enough water where he could probably survive underwater, somehow. But yeah, I mean, to kind of almost naturally, and again, you're using your fire bending to some degree, so not completely naturally, but someone who can do it naturally. There's no one really better suited for that test than Zuko, and he, we later find out that like he was right. Like he trusted his gut, and he's a smart guy, and it leads him to somewhere he needs to go.
Yeah.
But before we get, go ahead.
Well, there was one more thing, because Zuko does like one other thing where he has to use his fire magic underwater, right? Magic, I say. Do you recall that scene where he's like heating up the ice to get through it?
Yeah. So that is like when we jump ahead, like through the Yue, Aang, and Katara scene where we get back to Zuko. Like he finds his way to where all the other seal turtles are, and he's freezing, and that's where he uses his breath of fire to kind of warm himself back up real quick. And then he kind of like there's like another. Like he starts climbing, but it's actually climbing through water, I think, again.
Right. It's like a waterfall or whatever. And he goes through that before.
And that's where he ends. Like he ends at the ice where like, oh, I'm screwed if I didn't have the ability to bend fire.
And how weird was that for you? Because like I am again like going through this series with like a fresh pair of eyes. So it's like I know what things you might see later, what things you might not. I found it strange to see him doing his firebending underwater.
I think the only reason, and very specifically in that moment, I find it weird because it's the firebending continues to be a mystery to me, where it seems like it's almost just out of nowhere.
And maybe that's what it is. Like you and I have been talking about it so much that I'm like more tuned into that kind of thing. And I mean, we've said that like, hey, fire kind of needs the triangle, right? It needs the fuel source. It needs, I can't remember what the actual triangle is, but it needs oxygen basically.
Right.
And you figure, yes, there's a tiny bit of oxygen in the water. How did he pull that off?
Right. It's especially like, and again, like air bending is also like, all right, well, there's just air everywhere. So like, it's very hard to like say that you can't do air bending. That almost seems as powerful as fire bending in that sense, that like you can almost do it anyway, like unless you completely bind the hands, tape the mouth shut, like Aang finds useful ways to use his air bendings,
Right.
usually no matter how he's held up together.
Right. Could you be a spit bender? Could you just be like, but
like that's like the thing, like water benders, if you take away water, like all of a sudden now a water bender can't do anything. If you take away earth or like earth material, like all of a sudden an earthbender can't do anything.
Right. And I mean, we've talked about it before. Like there's water in the atmosphere. So like a good waterbender, like in theory, could they do that? Could they pull it out of the atmosphere?
I'm hoping that I'm hoping we see either, Paku or Katara do something like that down the road, because it while again, I think it's like, oh, we're pulling at strings here to get water bending to work when we need it to work. At least then it's like, okay, like it helps strengthen for me as an adult how firebending works, because firebending is the one that most seems just like magic.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, to some extent, it is something that you're pulling out of nowhere. Like you almost have to think of that as like there's some tiny little man in their hands who's striking little flints.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they have little tiny miniature, like it's like the angels on your shoulders, except they're all the evil ones. It's all the devils on your shoulders that are helping you start the fire.
Yeah.
So in between like that initial Zuko scene where he follows the seal turtles and where he's breaking through the ice there, with his underwater fire bending powers, we get is where we learn more about the moon and the history of water bending with the moon and the ocean, and that the moon was the first water bender, and that the moon and the ocean spirits work together to help give powers to waterbenders. And that history from Yue that she's telling to Aang and Katara triggers something in Aang about the spirit world, and like now I don't. It's worked out where like usually whenever Aang is like, oh, you know what I need? I just need to talk to somebody to make it better. It usually works out for him.
That is generally like the course of not only this season, but where you imagine the series going. It's all about education for him.
Well, yeah, especially because like, again, like in the beginning of this episode, we still see a 12-year-old kid who's not taking his lessons from Master Paku seriously. And also a kid who knows he's a kid and is like just feels completely overwhelmed by the fact that like I have to defend this entire tribe, not by himself, but and ultimately the world. You're right, against the Fire Nation, and that one might like the tribe. He's got help, right? Like he's got plenty of help, but ultimately the world, which he doesn't reference at all in this episode. But you would have, what I'm taking from that scene where he's feeling depressed about like being just a kid, only one kid, is that like that when he is trying to save the world, it might not be just him because he's got Katara and Sokka, but like that's a lot less help than the tribe that's giving him.
Right.
So getting the hope of connecting with the spirit world again, like, gives him a lot of like joy and gives him some hope, and Yue is like, oh yes, maybe they can give you wisdom, and he's like, or they can just help me cause some smashy smash or whatever he says. And ultimately it's more about the wisdom, but that's where like this is now where Yue's original B story is starting to get intermingled with the A story. Because if you remember when we first hear Iroh talking to Zhao about let's take a break until daybreak because the moon fuels their powers. Zhao very briefly says, I got a solution for that.
Right. Yeah. And it was kind of like, what are you talking about, bro?
Right.
Like,
and at
what
the
are you, Mr.
time,
Burns, with your.
at the time, I'm very much like, what's he talking about? Like, what are you going to do to the moon? Like, you're right. Like, and there's no way they're going to pull a Mr. Burns. They're not like this is a serious show.
Very serious, completely unlike The Simpsons.
Right. So ultimately, and then we've already talked about how Sokka learns that he was taking off the mission to guard UA, but we do see that the center, Aang and UA and Katara are led by UA to like their spiritual area in the tribe, which is like the center of all the spiritual energy for the Northern Water Tribe, which is this very beautiful, like Zen garden almost.
Right. And it's warmer than like the surrounding area, and somehow
Grass.
still like contributes to everything. Like the girls take off their coats because it's warm enough for them to be able to do that comfortably.
Yeah. And there's grass there that Aang is very happy to see. He's tired of all the ice and snow. He's trying to meditate because he gets to like a certain spot and he's like, I do feel more tranquil. I do feel more zen. We see the koi fish, the yin and the yang. And that's really what kind of triggers the meditation to take effect and to take him, not before the girls are talking.
He shuts them up.
and to be fair, they were whispering, they were trying to be respectful, but Aang was like, maybe if I had some quiet.
Right. And I get it. Like, especially after all that he's gone through thus far.
Right. It was such a funny reaction though, that not disrespectful reaction at all. Just like a really funny reaction that a 12-year-old kid who's trying to meditate would have.
Yep.
But the yin and the yang of the koi fish takes him to that spirit world.
Right. Yeah. He ends up going and seeing the weird monkey man.
Well, so I don't know that we see. I don't think we see that in this episode. I don't think we see him in the actual spirit.
Yeah,
spirit world.
Right. We see he's basically checked out for the rest of this episode.
Yep.
But that leads to the next problem, because since he's out, he can't be moved. Right. When lo and behold,
Zuko.
I imagine he like comes out to like John Cena's theme song for whatever.
Oh my god! It is. That's such a funny image, because like we live in an era now where John Cena I don't remember the last time he was a heel, and I just, and I said the same thing about The Rock. I don't know that The Rock would ever be a heel again, and they proved me wrong by making him one of the greatest heels of 2024 in wrestling. But and
beyond.
It's what a funny entrance theme to see for Zuko, because he is like a bad guy. Right. But you didn't see him coming.
Nope. He all of a sudden shows up out of nowhere.
What an awesome fight between Katara and Zuko. And even though, like, yes, Zuko is caught off guard at first, but even when he realizes what's happened and that Katara has learned and has a master of her own to learn how to bend, like, she still gets the upper hand on him and freezes him in ice twice.
Right. Knowing, of course, that like her power is derived from the moon at this point. So she's a little bit more powered and everything like that. But she definitely has come a long way, because I can't imagine before the water tribe, the Northern Water Tribe, her being able to hold her own against Zuko in any fashion.
No, I mean, even the fact that she held her own against Paku is amazing, because that was, I think, raw emotion that was helping her get through that. I don't know that, while yes, she obviously, I think, would be, mad or angry to see Zuko. I don't know that raw emotion before the Northern Water Tribe and before learning how to control her powers was strong enough to take on Zuko.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Aang has always had issues taking him on, and really, even I think when he went Avatar State had a couple issues taking him on in that very first set of episodes. So the fact that Katara can hold her own with Zuko here is such an amazing scene. And again, like, I know this is Aang's show, it's about the last Airbender, it's about the Avatar, but I really like that the last few episodes since they've been at the Northern Tribe here, it's not been about Katara, but there is like a strong Katara story here.
Oh yeah, there's the nice thing about these two episodes, and I think what has them finish so strong, is that every one of the named characters who we stepped into the episode, or the 18, 19, 20 arc, like that we came into the episode with, not that we met in those episodes, right. They all get a really strong showing. Yeah. Like everybody from the gang to Zuko and Iroh, they really get a chance to shine in some very nice ways, and it doesn't ever feel like anybody's being super overlooked. Yeah. I will say, like, Sokka never really gets a chance to shine as like a combatant.
No, not in these episodes.
Right.
But I think he had that moment already.
Right. Which is why they focused instead on the romantic aspect of him and Yue.
Yes. And I do think that, like, and again, this is jumping ahead a little bit. I do think that almost everyone, but maybe Aang and maybe Zuko, like, kind of had like not their arc completed, but like they are so much better. And yes, Aang and Zuko are probably better off than they were when they started the series. But like, we'll get to. I'll explain that in the next half of this episode.
There we go.
Because I don't want to jump the gun here. But Zhao, is ready to move in. It's daybreak. And because it's daybreak, Zuko kind of breaks out of the ice, which is like, it seems like it's almost within like minutes of him being frozen that second time. And right. Now I didn't quote this because I think it's the best line of the episode. There was so much going on in this episode that I didn't really think about grabbing a quote from the episode, but this is the one I grabbed where he, and it's not even a real quote because it's me paraphrasing it, but he breaks out of it and like says something about,
he says, you rise with the moon, I rise with the sun.
Yes. Yeah. And what a badass line. Takes out Katara. It's kind of our little Empire ending here. Empire Strikes Back ending. Takes out. And we should say that at some point when Zuko first revived, Yue ran to go get help. Like, that's why she's not around. Like, she's not around.
Right. And I mean, not much that she'd be able to do anyway. She's not trained as a fighter. She's not a waterbender. Like, but she's got to go for help.
Right. But yeah, Zuko takes out Katara, snags the back collar of Aang, and is on his way.
Right. And that's where you leave off in this episode, knowing that like tragedy is about to strike.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, again, very good. I mean, I would have to imagine that folks in IMDb ranked this as somewhere between a 9 and a 10.
Yeah. This was rated a 9.3, which even to me feels a little low.
That feels low. I mean, I don't know that I give it a perfect 10, but it's so, I mean, to me, this is a 9.5 to a 9.8 episode. It's so good. So much. I mean, it is one of my longer, I take notes in the note app on the iPhone. It is, I mean, one of my longest set of notes. I wonder if when we post these episodes, if I should include screenshots or something of my notes that I take, which have a lot of spelling mistakes, but, it's probably the most notes. You know what? I'm looking at part 2 right now. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
But part 1 has a lot of notes as well. Maybe not the most notes.
I mean, it's a combo. It's a combo pack, so you kind of get it.
But part two has even more notes. But we are, I do want to say that, like, again, overall, love this episode. To me, it's that like 9.5 to 9.8 range. Did you want to do, I forget what we did last time. Did you want to do trivia for this part 1 now, or do you want to do all trivia at the end?
Well, I mean, we'll do it we'll do it right now, I guess, because I
Okay.
only have one big piece that's not a spoiler,
Okay.
and that was when Yue is doing. She talks about the her experience with the koi fish spirits as well, right? Or is that episode?
That's in part two.
Okay, all right. Um, well, it's a spoiler, so it's only going to be a spoiler for one more episode. So we'll talk about it in episode 2.
Okay. So with that being said, we are going to just take a quick commercial break, mainly so that I can get a water because my mouth is dry.
Oh yeah.
But we'll be back on the other end to chat about part 2 of the Siege of the North, right here on AvatarStateRadio.com.
To the commercial.
And we are back. I am hydrated. Mike, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling swell.
Um,
I am Mr. Avatar State Worldwide.
We are. It's high noon. It's high noon, and I know you are in a recording studio that gets a little hot. How are you feeling there?
So I had the air conditioner running ahead of time. So we are doing pretty good.
Good. It's also not super sunny out, so
Right.
It's got to be helpful.
It's helping. It's helping. I think it still gets hot in here, like just because the sun is beating down here. I have that northern exposure, so like no tree coverage outside my house anymore, so like no shade. So the sun does beat down on these windows, but it's also an overcast day. You know, it's helping.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's a little windy out. I guess it rained last night. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway, that's not why you're here. You're not here to listen to us talk about our personal lives on Avatar State Radio.
You might.
You might be.
20 episodes. You might like us by now.
I would hope so. I would hope that after 20 episodes, which, probably looking at our, it equates to somewhere between like probably 10 to 15 hours of us talking about Avatar. I hope that you are happy to be with us as I learn about this universe. And this is the episode, the Siege of the North Part 2, that concludes Book 1, Book of Water. I don't think it's not officially called the Book of Water, right? I'm thinking of the Book of Eli when I say that.
When you're talking about the season?
Yeah, I know it's season 1. I know it's Book 1 Water.
Book 1 Water.
Yeah. I keep on calling it the Book of Water, which is just me thinking about the Book of Eli for some reason. But yes, Book 1 Water. We conclude here. I would say I know that really we said when we started this podcast off that like I guess we'll see what happens after 3 episodes. It's kind of like you and I have a similar rule, like we give stuff 3s.
Yeah, 3s are every now and then I'll give something 5, and I think like sometimes you need that 5 because a show does take a little long to hit its stride.
It all depends. If it needs to have me hooked enough in 3 to give it 5.
The only time I think that it didn't happen, and I know that this is an Avatar show and not a Parks and Rec show, but Parks and Rec, it took me like a decent chunk before I found my love for that show.
That was Game of Thrones for me. Says the guy who still hasn't finished the series. Tapered off in season 3 somewhere.
Don't do it.
But I don't know if you remember, and it's just a small little tangent. I had to watch episode 1. I think it was between 3 and 5 times to complete it. And I'm talking start to finish. Like I watched the first, like, if it's an hour-long show, the first 20 to 30 minutes, 5 times.
It's so funny how hard I tried to get you to do that show. And I think more likely than not, it was me being betrayed by that show that said, we're done with this podcast.
Maybe, because I got into it. Like that first episode, there's just so much information dump. And it's to me, the 5th time I watched it, or the last time I watched it, I'll say, it was good. I finally got into it. But the first 2 to 4 times I watched that episode, I literally thought it was the most boring thing I've ever watched in my entire life.
Yeah, and I get it. But instead of keeping this going, by chatting more about that.
Yeah.
let's dial it back and talk Avatar.
Right. That's the only thing that's taken me past the rule of three. This show here. That first goal was to get to 3 episodes and see if I liked the series enough. And I want to say with the first episode, I was hooked.
Yeah. But now after episode 20, you're like not feeling it.
Yeah, I'm like, this episode, we're done. It betrayed me. It betrayed me. No, but this is what we've been building up to. We've been building up to me, the last pod bender, getting to the end of this first season here. And I know, like, we haven't. Here's what's wild. I meant to start releasing this podcast a few weeks ago when, at the time of this recording. By the time we're done recording this episode today, not the season finale of the podcast, but the season finale of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated series, we haven't even aired a single episode yet.
Right.
But there's all in like the trying to make it so that we're not scrounging to do work over the summer when I have less time to record. All for the betterment of you fine folks out there. Yeah, we've been building to this moment, and like I would say there was a little bit of worry of how season 1 would stick its landing, because if y'all, and meaning you, Mike, and our listeners recall, like, I was like, there's like, we're getting less and less time to spend with like training the Avatar water bending. And as far as I know, the next season isn't called Book of Water Part 2.
Right.
Like, it's so like, what's going to happen here? So, and that question actually gets answered in this episode
to some extent. Yeah.
Let's hop to it. This picks up obviously immediately after what happened before, which I think we actually ended. We didn't mention this before the commercial break. I think that first episode actually ended with Zuko hiking in the blizzard.
Right. We know that he took Aang.
I feel like, because I have in my notes here at some point is that he's still hiking in the blizzard. So at some point we get an initial shot, and I don't know if it's the very beginning of this episode or the very last scene of the last episode.
Yeah, I feel like we saw, like, we didn't see where they were, but we saw.
You know what? You're right.
You're right. Vista, like pan where it was going up the mountain, but you didn't actually see them.
But you could see that when it panned up out of that northern drive, like I don't know how our boy climbed up so quickly, because that looks like a very tall climb. But it's like, it's getting more blizzardy as you get outside of the tribe.
Right.
On that shelf there.
Yeah. Cause you're going even further up north, I would assume.
Yeah. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because this episode opens immediately after, in that little Zen garden where Yue, found and tracked down Sokka. They hopped on Appa and they got back to the Zen garden, and Katara wakes up and she is briefly immediately sad that she has failed in her job of protecting her friend and the Avatar Aang.
I mean, again, we know that Zuko's been at it longer. Zuko's got a lot more emotion driving him. There's more necessity for him. You know, and
what happens is that Sokka, who is now there, like, it plays the role of Big Brother perfectly. Like, it's actually been a while. I mean, I guess not. I guess in episode 18 there was like some of that sibling fighting. Not fighting, but it's like, that sibling give and take.
Some rivalry.
But for some reason it feels like it's been much longer than there's been that like sibling fighting or whatever, because he does the great job of a big brother and makes her feel better almost instantly. And like, it's like, hey, don't worry about it. We're gonna get Aang back. Like, it's what we do.
Right. Yeah. Zuko has always done this kind of thing, and we've always made sure that, Aang is right back where he belongs.
But dare I say, the saddest thing that's ever happened in the series thus far happens in this scene. And that is seeing a sad, dejected Momo.
Don't make Momo sad.
I mean, this is a flying lemur who I don't think ever has seen sad. We've seen disgusted because he ate that disgusting snow in the last episode.
Right.
We've seen him happy. We've seen him angry. We've seen him fight. But I don't know that they didn't even show his face. That's how sad he was.
Right. We've seen him earthbend.
Yes, we've seen the motherfucker earthbend. I don't know if we curse on this show. Should I bleep that out?
I think you beep it for so here, we'll do one of these. And then you can find it better.
It's so funny because we definitely curse on the show, but I don't know if I've dropped a hard curse like that before.
A hard F.
But like that's how sad. Well, no, we weren't even talking about Momo being sad. We're talking about earthbending. But that's how emotional I am because my boy was sad.
There you go. You were sad because he was sad.
But yeah, we do ultimately see Zuko still hiking in this blizzard, which kind of becomes like, you know, a problem for him. And I mean, obviously he's by himself, and lugging a 12-year-old child, which I get it. Like Zuko as this probably a 16 or 17-year-old is in way better shape than I've ever been.
Right.
But I know what a 12-year-old child feels like.
A dead weight child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Aang is kind of scrawny, you know.
He is, yes. I will say my 12-year-old is not a scrawny monk. So maybe it's a little different, but I know
even as scrawny as Aang is, walking as far and trudging through the snow like Zuko has been doing, that's got to eventually, you know, I can't hold my arms up for 10 minutes.
It's got to be the equivalent of when like my 3-year-old, who is honestly, because he's so big, is probably the same weight as, and I'm not saying my 3-year-old's chunky, I'm saying Aang is scrawny. Like when he's dead asleep and I'm carrying him for up the stairs.
It's a dead weight.
It's dead weight. I'm tired. I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. So props to Zuko for, you know, just that, you know, strength, I guess. Like I couldn't do it. I would be dead. I would be like, you know what? I'm just going to die in this blizzard right now.
Right. I'm taking you with me.
But we do then, this is where we finally get to the spirit world. You know, we know Aang went there because we saw him go there in the previous episode, but this is the first time in this two-parter that we see him in the actual spirit world, where he talked to that initially I just have talked to a monkey who is meditating,
right, who we have not seen before, who can speak English, presumably.
Yeah. You know, I am curious about shows like this, right? Like clearly all the influence says this is Eastern influence. But it's obviously made by Western animators and storytellers, and so it's in English. But I'm curious if because all the written language is in Eastern, you know, whether it's Chinese, I'm not really good at
why are we hearing English?
So it's really interesting, and I know why we are, but I wonder if you were to really dive into the intricate part of the storytelling, if you ask the storytellers what language are they speaking, or maybe it's obviously language that's for Atla, but what language do you imagine they're speaking right now? Is there a universal basic Eastern language that they're speaking?
Yeah, and you figure based on the influences that they have, we've talked about it before, the Fire Nation is probably the most, the whitest, of the group, but you have the Earthbenders who are kind of Indian, the Waterbenders who are Eskimo, Inuit, that kind of thing. The Airbenders who are more like Nepalese and things like that. In our world, they all speak different languages, so how, if you were going to go the more adult route, would they all be speaking a different language, or is it just, there's,
Or is it like Star Wars where there's basic that everyone speaks,
Right.
which just so happens to be English to our ears.
Right.
I'm also curious, like, and I don't know enough about like Japanese or Chinese or any of those languages that are over in the eastern part of the world. Like if you're Chinese, can you pick up Japanese pretty easily? Is it similar enough? Just like my only real, not my experience, but my only experience with it is like there is Spanish and then there's like Brazilian. Similar, you could, I think, fake a conversation your way through that.
Well, there is no Brazilian. There's Portuguese.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's little bits that, like, any kind of like romanticized languages you can kind of pick up a little bit, like English, Spanish, French, Italian, even like a little bit of German. Like you can kind of see like the throughput sometimes where you might be able to pick up. I would imagine like a Spanish, Italian, French, probably a lot easier than, English to any of those or to German.
Right. Means what a tangent that means nothing, because at the end of the day they're all speaking English on the show. Anyway, so yeah, there's the monkey who speaks English, which what I love is there's no like spit take that Aang has
about the
speaking monkey.
Oh yeah, it was completely like expected. Like, all right, I mean, it's the spirit world. It kind of makes sense to some extent.
But we've seen his boy the panda didn't speak.
His boy the panda didn't speak, and thus far, I don't think in the spirit world he's met any speaking people, with the exception of Roku. Right?
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, and he ends up getting tossed on a tangent in his journey, which, to me, like watching it back the second time, I thought that Ko was something that happened in a completely different episode. Like, it's weird to have, in my mind, Ko be a part of this episode.
I mean, I guess that means he comes back. But
no, I thought so. I thought that he showed up in a different episode in season 1. In fact, like, I thought it happened earlier and then I had just forgotten about it. So seeing him in this episode, it was very strange seeing it. And to me, it, like, for you, why would it be out of place? Because it's your first time experiencing it.
Right.
But it is kind of weird having it happen in this episode, because it almost feels to break away from everything that's happening elsewhere. And I guess that's kind of the point, but like, I don't know. It struck me watching it back again as so much different than my expectations of where the episode was going to go.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's been tainted by my experience in the other ways that I've seen the Avatar universe, because I've seen it in the movie, I've seen it in the live action series. Like, it is very different the way that they've been presented in all three versions.
I would love to see how, because I would say, and I know we have a talking monkey, I know we have flying lemurs, I know we have sky bison. I would love to see how Ko is presented in live action, and maybe not so much the movie, because I feel like my knowledge of that movie, which is that it's not taken seriously by most people, and that it did poorly. But the live action series, and I haven't seen anything but a few still images that Netflix shows you. So like, to see Ko in live action, specifically the live action series, I'm waiting for, because what a wild being that spirit is.
Right. Yeah. It's weird to think about whether or not they'd be able to pull that off.
Right. So Aang, talks very briefly to this monkey who wants nothing to do with him because he's meditating. Which, I mean, to be fair, Aang, you did tell the girls to quiet down when you were trying to meditate. So, like, let the monkey have his meditation. But then he chases this light that ultimately leads him to the spirit of Roku.
Right. Yeah, Roku gets to kind of tell him what next to do in this, which kind of makes you think, like, why not just have him find Roku right away? But ultimately, Roku says, hey, you got to find Ko. Ko will be the one to kind of explain more.
Right. Well, and I got the feeling that he went to the spirit world to find the ocean and the moon spirit first and foremost, because I don't think he knew that there was a possibility that they gave up their immortality to come to the mortal world.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't know that Tui and La are the koi fish in the pond.
Right. Right. Spoilers.
Spoilers for this episode.
But so that was my impression, that he went there to just talk to them, and like he just happens to find Roku, who, like, as you said, he goes on to say, like, listen, like, I haven't been around the spirit world long enough to know anything about the two of the oldest spirits to ever be around. You need to talk to the other old spirit, Ko, who, by the way, don't show any emotion, don't smile, don't laugh, don't be excited, be a drone.
Right. He's gonna steal your face.
Or he's the face stealer. That's his name, is the face stealer. And that's like it. See, the only departure it felt for me with the whole Ko thing is that it is probably one of the darker things that we've seen in this series thus far. And darker in as in like scary dark.
Oh yeah.
Versus like, emotional darkness, like when Aang first went to his air temple and saw like everything he ever knew and loved gone, and any of the other emotional beats we've had in the series thus far, like they can, like, the show's not afraid to get dark in that sense.
Right. Yeah.
But
there, like you said, there hasn't really been any scary kind of elements. Maybe the scariest it got is the last time that we were in the spirit world, where we saw the other spirit that was in this episode that turned into the panda. But and that's like,
yeah, but that's like goofy scary too, right? Like that wasn't. You're right. I mean, that was the closest we've gotten to like a scary dark. Whereas not even seeing Ko yet, like Roku's reaction and explanation of Ko is like, oh, okay, like good luck telling this to a 12-year-old kid. Like telling them not to do something.
Yeah.
Again, as an experienced dad with a 12-year-old kid, telling a 12-year-old not to do something you're going to get the opposite.
Right. And especially after seeing it in the previous episode where Aang just is not with it when it comes to training. Like sometimes he doesn't take this stuff seriously. So like you do kind of have a worry for Aang about whether or not he's going to be able to pull these things together.
Right. So and then before he continues on with his emotionless journey that he has to take, we jump back to the real world where something that we kind of brushed over while during the spirit world thing, it does cut back to Zuko at some point, and there's like he's caught in what appears to be like a collapse of some sort.
Yeah, it looks like it's not quite snow, it's like ice, and it's like shattering beneath him.
But like he does a good job at escaping it, and then realizing that like, okay, I can't travel in this anymore, and find shelter and binds Aang up real good, so that like he can just like wait out this blizzard.
And he does a little bit of chatting with him, right? Because he reveals a bit of information that we didn't really know.
Yep, that actually happens after the Roku stuff, where he tells Aang to be emotionless. We get a brief glimpse of Sokka, Katara, Appa, and Yue at the scene of the collapse. To which they cut to Katara's worried face, and then we cut back to that shelter that Zuko set up, and he monologues. And that was my note. I was gonna have a bigger note. There was just so much happening. I couldn't take like really detailed notes.
Yeah.
But his monologue is something about like how he's always had it tough. He's always had to fight like to succeed, and that like the line that got me was that his that proves that his father's a jerk is that his sister is the lucky one, and that Zuko is lucky to be alive.
Right. The line is, "You're like my sister," which is the first time that we've ever heard him have a sister, I believe, right?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
So he says, "Everything always came easy to her. She's a firebending prodigy and everyone adores her. My father says she was born lucky. He says I was lucky to be born. I don't need luck, though. I don't want it. I've always had to struggle and fight, and that's made me strong. It's made me who I am."
Yeah, and that's like a cool little monologue for him. Again, it doesn't there's his tone there is filled with someone who is angry and has a little bit of hatred in his heart, I think, but it again shows that just if he had a loving father, and I know it's the Fire Nation and whatnot, but like we've seen that there are good, like there are loving people, even though if they're bad guys, like they exist.
Right.
And
Technically,
had he had a loving
bad.
father,
What's that?
Had he had a loving father, maybe
Right.
he'd be different.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we see Iroh is technically a bad guy, but he's still, there's warmth there that's not chaotic.
Yeah. And out of all the Fire Nation, save for like the Fire Nation person that we met early on, that was like actually a good person. And maybe that other random old man and stuff. Iroh is like one of the few named Fire Nation people that we see that, yes, he's a bad guy, but I put that in quotes because like really like I think he's a bad guy in the sense of like, oh, I was born in the Fire Nation. My brother's the Fire Lord. Of course, I'm going to be like a bad. Of course, I agree with what we should be doing.
I mean, you got to figure like prior to all of this, the world had to have been in balance because we know that Aang had friends in the Fire Nation and stuff like that. It's only recently within this last 100 years that the Fire Nation would be considered just villains,
right,
by nature.
Right. And Iroh is obviously, I mean, I would imagine he to me seems like he's like in his 60s or 70s. So he was born into a world where there's nothing but war, but like it's not long before he was born where there was balance. So I don't know. He is like he is the kindest of all the Fire Nation people that we kind of know, with again, oddly enough, Zuko kind of being like the second kindest person from the Fire Nation of named characters that we've spent multiple episodes with.
Right. Yeah, because he's starting to grow.
Yes.
He's starting to get a little bit of that nurture from Iroh.
Yes. But and that cuts to the battle that, the battle is continuing on. But during that battle, Iroh is warning Zhao about the full moon, and that if they don't finish this battle soon, the full moon is going to like make it so that the Northern Water Tribe is undefeatable and we're going to have to leave. And again, Zhao says, "Don't worry, I can take out the moon." and this is where
is it there where the information gets divulged and we get to see like the things that he's learned and what he's planning?
Yes. Well, first there's a brief little moment where Han runs out and says something and then gets thrown overboard because he's a fool.
Right.
But then yes, Zhao has his monologue about being studying about the spirits of the moon and the ocean and learning that he's identified the now I don't know, I wrote down human form. I don't know if that's what he said. Maybe he said the mortal form of the moon's spirit.
Yeah, it could have been that, because I don't think we certainly learn that, and I think it's before this, right? That that Yue has been kind of blessed by the moon spirit.
No, we learn.
Is that still later?
We learn this. God, I'm looking at my notes here.
Well, in any case, so here's my thinking. If you're listening to our podcast before you watch the show, that's weird.
yeah, for sure.
We may do things out of order. So we shouldn't be saying spoilers for the episode that we're in.
Right. No, but it does. I mean, so we learn about Yue owing the moon spirit her life, like in a lot more. I mean, I think Aang returns to his body before we learn.
Wow. It feels almost Deus Ex Machina-esque to learn that so late in the game.
Yeah, I mean, we learned that. I mean, you know what? I have a lot of notes after that as well. So I think this episode is just, there's so much happening.
Yeah.
And this one's, I think, a little bit longer. Like, instead of being a 22-minute episode, I think this one's closer to 25 minutes.
Right. Yeah. They're like, we're going to run a couple less ads during this episode.
Yeah. So this one was a little bit longer than the normal episodes we have.
But still, like, I feel like that revelation comes so late in the game.
It does. But you know what? At the end of the day, like, it doesn't feel unnatural that it happens so late. It doesn't feel like, there's nothing wrong about that, about when that because so much happens, and it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, one could argue maybe because we learn about it so late in the game, it cheapens like the end of this story with like Zhao trying to kill the moon spirit and like trying to bring it back to life and stuff. That would be the only way you could win an argument with me, saying that like, oh, they did it too late.
Right.
But again,
I would say, and you and I are up on this kind of stuff all the time. Give it a little bit more time to like ferment, like give me another episode, like make this a 3-parter.
I do think that, and we argued that the episode 18 could have been part of this arc. And it could have been a 3-part finale with that. If that's the case, if we're and after seeing these 2 episodes now, I would be okay with episode 18 being its own thing. I think you're right. I think that, and there's nothing in this episode, nothing feels rushed, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. They didn't do it, with the exception of that little piece. I feel like if you were able to find a better place earlier on to divulge that information, it hits a little harder. It hits a little better.
Yeah. I don't know if you were able to produce a 3rd episode and make this like a 21 episode season and have the Siege of the North be a 3-parter. If you were able to do another 20 minutes on that without it feeling like filler, I'd be all for it. I think I would say 99% of these 2 parts are so good. And nothing feels rushed, nothing feels cheap, except for, like you said, maybe there's 1% of between the 2 episodes that feel that way. I don't want a 3rd episode if it's going to make it feel fillery.
Right.
So
I agree. Yeah.
But I would have loved to seen, you're right. If they could have done it good, you could have had a 3rd part where it does it. And again, I don't feel cheapened by how late that's revealed, but I could see your argument of how it feels a little cheapened by.
Right. And there's, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we said a couple of times throughout the season, where like if things had been changed and they were able to, if you had unlimited budget, if you had as much time in any episode as you wanted to run it as long back as you needed to, do those things happen off screen, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, could you have made it work a little bit better? But they were restricted to, we're talking 15 years ago. This is pre-streaming.
Yeah.
You can't say I'm going to, do a 32-minute episode.
Right.
This is what you're left with.
Yeah. And, I know we have a lot more to talk about with this episode, but it does make me wonder about, and I know that they're hour-long episodes, but it does make me wonder how they get a lot of this information that we get from the animated series into the live action series, because this 2-parter alone, there's so much happening in what equates to about 50 minutes of television.
Right. There's only 10 hours. There's only 10 episodes of
right.
Of live action.
I can't wait to get into that because I'm so interested to see what they leave behind and or what they had and how they adapt the story for live action, because it's amazing that because again, for 20 episodes here, for me personally, out of 20 episodes, there's only about 22 minutes, one episode, that I think you could cut out and I would be okay with it. And,
right.
And
yeah. I'm in the same boat. I don't think that I would cut anything. I think it might have benefited here and there from a few more minutes. It didn't need a full episode added anywhere, but a minute here or there. They ran a tight ship.
Yeah. And so anyway, so near the end of that monologue that Zhao is giving, Iroh warns him that like, hey, you should not mess with the spirits. Like, that's a bad thing. Like,
right. And is this the first time that we've learned that Iroh has had an experience with the spirit world?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we learn in these two episodes. I think we learned a lot about Iroh. Like, I don't know that, and I don't know if it was this episode. It might have been the previous episode where we learned that like he had a failed battle or something.
Well, they've mentioned his fail. I think even episode 18 they mentioned the failure of
Okay.
his, and it might have even no. I guess you know what it would have been when he was captured by the Earth Kingdom. They mentioned
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
they mentioned Ba Sing Se there as well. Ba Sing Se has been name dropped a couple of times at this point. Um, Enough where at this point, like you wonder, are we going to see it? You know?
yeah, yeah. I would love to see a flashback to that, or even like present day stuff, I guess. But yeah, I do remember at least in that when he's captured by the Earth Kingdom, I do remember them talking about that. Anyway, yeah. So, but this is where we do first learn that Iroh has had like interaction with the spirit world, and it. I think that right there kind of explains his whole deal. Like, yes, he is Fire Nation. Yes, he is a bad guy. Yes, he seems to believe in this war his brother is fighting, but he's also very respectful of the elements and of the spirits and stuff.
Right. He kind of mentions balance, right?
What was
Bless
that?
you. Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah. What was that?
He mentioned balance, right? Like it's going to
Yeah.
upset the balance of the world and everything like that. Not as if the war that the Fire Nation is waging wouldn't do the same thing, but not to this level. Not when you're interfering with the way that the spirits are affecting the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't wait. The last few minutes of this episode is so good. Um, and speaking of that, we do get back to the spirit world. Aang is getting ever so closer to where Ko is living. He sees a friendly little monkey, not a talking one this time. Maybe it's because he's faceless. I don't know.
Haunting.
But yes, a faceless monkey. And when Aang goes into the cave, he's looking for Ko. And this is when we discover like he's a giant bug of some sort.
Yeah, like a centipede with a human like face, or like an aperture where a face could show up.
Yeah, yeah, like it is. It's like I would imagine that like it's a black canvas that he just. It looks like his normal face, quote unquote normal face, which could be a stolen face, is that like almost geisha looking face.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's got like that weird like white like overlay and everything like
and the
that.
rosy cheeks and the
Yeah.
red lipstick.
And I'm guessing that's his normal face or just his favorite one that he's picked up over time.
Yeah, yeah. And this is where we learn that we see Aang like doing a bang up job at like almost monotone talking, not smiling, not frowning, nothing. Like he's doing a really good job interacting with Ko.
You okay?
Yeah, I
Allergies are kicking your butt.
yeah, I sneezed because of my allergies, and now my nose is all stuffy. So I apologize, and
You know
I'm
what
not
happened?
fixing it.
You got the lawn mowing from my house over to you through Wi-Fi.
Son of a bad word.
It was not the hard B this time.
Anyway, yeah. So there, I have a note here in between where we learn about what was it, Tue and La?
Tui and Law, yes.
Yeah. So before my note before that is that Katara is worried. I'm guessing they're still. I guess that we cut back to the gang. What the gang minus Aang plus yeah, looking for them. She's worried. I'm guessing because I think she's worried that because like it's really cold. Like
Yeah,
Zhao.
she's not necessarily worried that Zuko is going to do anything because Zuko will not kill him, needs
Right.
him.
Right.
But yeah, the elements are something beyond people.
Yes, that's what she's worried about. But then we go back to the spirit world, and we learn about their is it their real names or Tui and La, the moon and ocean, the push and pull, and Ko warns Aang that these spirits are going to be killed. He talks about their while he's talking about their pushing and their pulling, he's talking about the yin and yang. And that's when, boom, it comes to Aang that the fish are the spirits.
Right.
Aang almost loses his face because when he realizes the koi fish are the spirits, like he gets excited.
Yeah, there's a little bit of surprise there.
But Ko isn't looking at him, so he can't steal the face. But he hears that excitement, instantly turns, trying to snap. Because what we skipped over is that Ko has history with the Avatar. One of his past lives, like killed or stole a lover of Ko.
Yeah, or no, I think it was the other way around. The Ko stole the face of the lover, and the Avatar did something to Ko. I think. Yes. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what happened. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, attacked Ko, banished him, something.
But yeah, so there's. I mean, it seems like Ko, whether the Aang was the Avatar or not, would be a dick and would want to try to steal his face. But because he's an Avatar, like he's like he really wants that face,
right? And I mean, that's pretty cool. It's almost as cool as being the guy who kills the moon spirit.
Right. And that is, before we get there, Aang like escape. He escapes with his face. He has his face, and he needs to get back to his body. So our favorite panda boy is back and guides Aang back to the real world. But before he gets there, we cut back to the battle that is that's continuing. Zhao, they crash into the walls. The fleets they're now attacking the city proper, and Zhao is ready to go fishing. And then my other note here might be my favorite note of the episode. I'm not sure, but is what scary panda sends mean monkey away.
Right. Turns into the weird orca creature briefly, and then just kind of sits back down all chill after that.
Yeah, and sends the meditating monkey who I mean, I think just wants quiet to meditate.
Right.
But is kind of a jerk about it. More so than Aang was, admittedly, when Aang said he wanted some quiet. And then Aang returns to the, and sees Momo and is like, "Hey, Momo, I'm back. Why are you sad? Oh, you can't see me because my body's not here."
Right. Zips across the sky over to the cave. We don't spend a long time with him having to find his body or anything. And then tries to get away from Zuko.
Inchworms away.
Yeah. Inchworms after he does whatever his weird thing is. And that's when the rest of the gang arrive as well.
Yes, because they saw the spirit fly back to the body, and Katara.
How bad are those doggies?
Probably no worse than what my dog was doing.
Okay.
And Katara saves Aang. She's able to get the upper hand because right now the moon's out. She's in play versus Zuko right now. And as they're getting ready to leave, Aang's like, "I can't leave Zuko to die. He just can't do it."
Right.
The ultimate flaw for a good guy is you can't leave the bad guy.
A little bit of compassion.
Yeah. Which I love. I love that characteristic of Aang. It's now the second time he's saved Zuko, and it continues to give me hope for Zuko and Iroh. And I think honestly, I think that the fact that Aang has basically saved Zuko's life twice now, but even after that first time, it really does dictate. Yes, Zuko wants to capture the Avatar and ultimately lead him to at least his imprisonment, if not death, with the Fire Lord. But he's still kind of making sure Aang doesn't die whenever he's got the upper hand.
Right. Yeah, because he knows that there's value in it, but is there a little bit of him who's like, hey, there's value beyond him being a bargaining chip for me?
Yes. And then this is where they get Zuko. There's time to go save the fish. And all during this time, we see Zhao grab the fish. Everything goes red. All the water benders can't bend anymore because now the moon spirit's not dead yet, but definitely threatened because he's got, I think, both fish, the ocean spirit and the moon spirit in this bag.
Yeah, you may be right. It might be both.
And everything goes red. And this is where we learn about Yue's link to the moon spirit, because she was born quote unquote asleep. Her father pleaded to the moon spirit for her life, placed her in the pond, and bam, she lives.
Right.
And her name means moon.
Right. Yeah. Yue means moon. She has the white hair that kind of signifies that she's got a piece of the moon in her. I think the eyes are indicative of the moon spirit as well.
I think you're right. Like, now that you're saying that, like I'm seeing special eyes there.
Yeah. Yep. And I think generally speaking, like everybody else, like we'll talk about that in a second, I guess.
And then when we get back to the pond with Zhao, that's when he's like just going on his tirade about like, I will be remembered forever as Zhao the Conqueror, the Moon Slayer, the Invincible.
Right. And by this time, Team Avatar is there, right?
Yes, they are there. They get there at this point. I do think that he said it out of order. I do think that the Moon Slayer is such a more badass name than the Invincible, that it should have been Zhao the Conqueror, Zhao the Invincible, and Zhao the Moon Slayer.
Right. Yeah, that's something that no one is going to do.
Like, oh my God.
Once in a lifetime situation.
To call me the Moon Slayer gives me such power, but to call me the Invincible, I don't care. I do not care.
Right.
And I think I have a big thing here that says Momo. Does he come and attack Zhao?
Yeah. So I think before, so they left Momo there, and
yes.
And Momo basically like attacks Zhao. Doesn't do like something besides a little bit of a distraction tactics, and we get to hear the Momo theme while he's doing it. But then Aang shows up, makes his plea to Zhao not to do this, and Iroh is there as well, and just about right by Aang's side is saying, yeah, this would be a stupid idea. Like, even the Fire Nation requires the moon.
Yeah, I mean, it is. In this moment, Iroh realizes that, okay, like the mission isn't to capture the Avatar right now. It's to stop Zhao from killing the world by killing the moon.
Right. And again, briefly, it looks like Zhao might be ready to hear reason.
Yeah. And again, Iroh, despite being Fire Nation and ultimately being a bad guy, he is about the elements. He's about balance. He's about the spirit world. So like he respects all that stuff. There's a way. He believes that there's a way for the Fire Nation to be successful in their war without sacrificing the world itself. And it does. You're right. Zhao looks like he's all right. I see the reason, and he He places the fish back into the pond, but then instantly like throws fire into that pond.
Yeah, does the fire chop.
Yeah, which only hits the moon spirit. The ocean spirit is fine.
It only kills Tui.
Yeah. And the world goes gray, which was interesting because the world went red initially.
Right.
And,
yeah. They actually mentioned that as a goof on IMDb, how like before the commercial, it went, this color. And then after the commercial, it changed to this. Yeah. So we got like a black and white kind of look. And
which I liked a lot. I liked that look a lot.
Yeah. It looked really good. It was better than just having it like super pitch black and you couldn't see anything. And I think everything was black and white with the exception of Yue's eyes.
I didn't notice that, but also very, very cool.
Yep.
And then Iroh now is attacking Zhao and is like,
goes nuts, beats the crap out of all the Fire Nation soldiers. Zhao manages to slip away.
Yeah, and to be fair, Iroh said like, "What I will do tenfold to whatever you do to that moon spirit."
Yeah, whatever you're going to do to my daughter, I'm going to do to you 10 times over.
Yeah. Awkward. And then
we noticed at that point that Zuko is gone as well, right?
Well. So yes, we do see Zuko has escaped the Appa. Aang goes Avatar state, and basically like creates with the ocean spirit like a giant koi fish water spirit man. This is my note,
Right,
with the heart of an avatar.
kind of kaiju, a
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Godzilla like.
Very Godzilla like. Very cool. Less destructive, like a respectful Godzilla.
Right, because he could have been smashing up the crap out of that city, but he was very like direct about how he was attacking things.
Yeah. And like really just pushing. And again, because I think the ocean spirit fish was also within. I don't know if this fish was with Aang in the heart of that, or if maybe the fish turned into the giant koi fish. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I can't really remember. I feel like I thought the fish was like a little further down in the body, but I can't remember.
maybe regardless, is pushing the Fire Nation out of the Water Tribe, which, yes, as of now, the moon is lost, but maybe the Water Tribe is not. And the city is intact because the giant koi fish with the help of the Avatar is like pushing the Fire Nation back. Zhao's still running away, but boom, there's Zuko. Here's a showdown that I think we've been waiting for some time, is
Right, because
Zuko versus Zhao.
We did see part one of their fight early on in the season, but we have a much more trained up Zuko. We see a Zuko who we can kind of get behind a little bit better now because they're not both as bad in our eyes.
Right. The first time I was still Team Zuko, but he was still, I still had hope for his redemption, but by this point in the series, I again have even more hope for his redemption, but I also understand him as a character a lot more. And understand, while his actions I do not agree with, but his motivations are, again, I don't agree with, but I understand.
Yeah. Right. Then after that, we get the person who realizes that Yue has the moon spirit and might be able to do something about it is Uncle Iroh.
Yeah, because Katara is very, she says it's too late, like the fish is dead, and Iroh says, well, you look like you've been touched by the moon spirit, that you have some life of the moon in you. And this is where Yue is like, I will give the life back.
Right.
And so Sokka is upset because here's what I at this point, I'm like, oh, she's like literally going to give some life, but she'll be fine. Like they're not going to kill this girl off. I can't tell you how surprised I am that this show, and again, they didn't kill her off. She just, my guess, it feels like she became the moon spirit.
Oh yeah.
But I am shocked that they took her physical form away from her. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I didn't remember like seeing it happen like that, where it was like she disappeared. And I also didn't remember when Aang went into the pond, him like dropping into the water like a drop of water as well, because that happened, and I was like, oh, that kind of looks like almost horror-y. But yeah, we do get to see both of those kind of like supernatural things take place, and then we get to see her reappear. We see Yue reappear in kind of like transparent spirit form to say her goodbye to Sokka.
And there's a little spirit kiss there.
Yep.
And it's, and this is jumping ahead, but like there is a moment between Sokka and her father that they share and is very lovely. And like, I missed this note. It sounded like he said something about like he had a vision or a dream that this would happen.
Yeah. Like, and I guess like, it would have been tough to not have that, because to see Sokka already kind of feels like he fails, but to have Dad feel like that too would have been tough, to be like, you screwed up, you lost me, my daughter. Like to be able to share in Sokka's pain without blaming him made it a more touching moment, I think.
Yeah. I mean, he says he's proud and he's sad, and it kind of like hovers at the moon before it cuts to the next scene. But before we even get to there, there's still, yes, the moon spirit is back. Zhao is obviously very upset about this. The ocean spirit and Aang seemingly return to normal as the moon returns.
But not
Zuko's
after
winning.
he's completely decimated like a bunch of the ships and
Yeah.
everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Fire Nation is they. I mean, I would imagine by this point we don't have final numbers, but they have been greatly reduced and have officially, I think, lost this battle.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
just seeing that giant creature would send me like for the hills.
right, right. We see Zuko is getting the better of Zhao, and then there is, and you know, part of the reason is Zhao gets surprised by the fact that the moon is back. He has failed. He is no longer the Moon Slayer.
Do you? I would count it. I would say that I slayed the moon. They needed a second moon.
That's true. That's true. So the and then we, as the Ocean Spirit and Aang are kind of like getting pulled back to that I guess the pond area, the spirit area. The Ocean Spirit takes Zhao, like forms a hands from the water and takes Zhao. And Zuko, I was a little surprised by this, tries to save him. Like
again, I think is a sign of ultimate potential to be redeemed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a total sign of like almost like he's learned from Aang that you can totally be on opposite sides of something, but you don't have to leave someone behind or allow someone to die. You can try to save their life.
Right.
A
little bit of Aang kind of through with
for sure. And that's like, and then it like, I don't know if it's immediately still nighttime or maybe if it's cut to the daytime by now, but that now like things are good. Like the Fire Nation isn't there anymore. The Moon Spirit, the Ocean Spirit are alive. Paku says that he's going to the South Pole to help rebuild.
Right.
Because as, at the very beginning, I think of episode 19, Sokka explains to Yue like he lives on a block of ice. Yeah. Nothing compared to what like how the northern tribe is living.
Right. Plus, we know Gran is there. I mean, maybe there's another reason for.
There's
Paku.
Definitely another reason Paku is going. I do believe that he. I believe that he's going there to help the Southern Water Tribe, but it's because Gran's there.
There you go.
I think maybe if Gran wasn't there, maybe he'd still go. But I think he would definitely want to send somebody or some group of people there to help if Gran wasn't there. But because Gran's there, he's going to head up this mission himself.
Right. And we learn, of course, that he's not going to be Aang's master, right? Because if he's going there, how is Aang going to learn the other elements?
And he hasn't mastered waterbending yet,
right?
And that's when Paku bestows the title of master to Katara,
right? And she's certainly earned it at this point.
Oh my god, she is so good at waterbending. One would argue that she's just as good as at waterbending as Aang is at airbending.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the team goes, she is right up there with being able to do some pretty cool stuff. Aang does some really neat things from time to time, but she's got a repertoire of skills at her behest now that she can tap into with her waterbending.
Right. So, obviously at this point, like, this kind of, goes back to when I said like, hey, there is like only a few episodes left. How is the Avatar going to master water? This kind of answers that, in that the fact that like, yes, we are leaving book 1 and going into book 2 for Earth, but clearly on their journey to find a earthbending master, I'm guessing we're going to see Katara. Maybe we don't see, maybe we won't see it a lot. I think we're going to see some lessons from Katara to Aang so that he can become a master of waterbending as well.
Even if it wasn't like an official like training, just to see her work.
Yes.
Could do the job.
Yes. We get a little scene with Iroh and Zuko where Iroh says he's surprised Zuko isn't trying to capture the Avatar, and he just answers he's tired, and Iroh says sometimes you just need to rest, buddy.
Yep. And then the next scene after, I think we did kind of bump around a little bit, but the next scene after that, we return to the Fire Nation, right?
Well, so immediately after that, we see Katara and Aang embrace, and the gang are standing proud, like on the horizon. And then, but before we get to the final scene, I'm very curious of Iroh and Zuko going forward, because in this next scene, uh, we hear the Fire Lord say Iroh is a traitor, Zuko is a failure, and it pans to Sissy here, where the Joker says, "I have a task for you."
Right. Uh,
Um,
so, do you remember when I was talking about during the Storm episode that we saw a character that we would see in the future?
oh yes,
So,
yes,
Sister, who I don't believe is named in this episode, but I'll drop her name for you. Her name is Azula. Um,
Azula.
she and Zhao were both in a flashback sequence during, I think, the Agna Kai, where Zuko is going to fight his dad. So Azula, despite the fact that we haven't heard her talk yet, and we haven't like seen her like addressed personally, we had seen her character like design earlier in the series.
Okay, okay. That's what a yeah. I definitely um
There's no way like going into this series you would have been able to pull her from that episode, because it's like
yeah,
you don't think about it, but like it was
right.
very cool that they knew as early as the Storm they were going to elevate her to a much bigger character. So again, like we were talking about the UA of it all, like that's how to plant a seed. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's so, and it's behind the scenes, just about like a regular viewer watching it the first, I never knew until I hit on it the second time.
I certainly, I only knew that there was a character because you mentioned something. And honestly, like in my head, I can't place her in that episode.
No,
Like,
no, you would never.
I would have to go back and rewatch it and like specifically look.
Yep, it's very
Um,
cool the way that they were able to integrate that, and it wasn't like an afterthought. Because you get like that in soap operas all the time. Oh, my long lost sister, and like you never mentioned it before, and they
right,
kind of like name dropped like Ira's son out of the blue, but it's not completely within reason why maybe they wouldn't, because
right.
it doesn't sound like he's around anymore, and
Right.
it's a point of sadness for him.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, but and it's because of that scene where, because I don't think Iroh is labeled a traitor before this moment. So it to me, it's now set up that like I don't see how either of them redeem themselves with the Fire Lord, even if they capture the Avatar.
Right. Yeah. Like, do you really trust that dear old dad is going to let you back into his embrace after, I would assume, one of the Fire Nation soldiers saw what happened with Zhao, got back to Ozai and said, "Hey, this is what happened." Which again kind of takes things a step further and shows you that Ozai very likely can never be redeemed, because if the only thing that went wrong was Iroh got ticked about, what happened with the Moon Spirit, it kind of goes to show you that Ozai was all about what Zhao was going to do.
Right, right. Like, which is win at any cost.
Yeah, and
Uh,
and and, and drastic costs at that, like
right,
like killing the Moon Spirit.
right. So like I don't. I mean, I think there's obviously got to be. I think Zuko and Iroh are probably going to be some sort of conflict for the gang still, but I've never been more convinced after this episode that by the end of this animated series, they are redeemed characters and that they are, anti Fire Lord
No,
and like anti war. Uh,
it'll
and
definitely be interesting to see it all play out, but we have 2 whole seasons to do it.
right, right. And as we're approaching the 2 hour mark for this podcast episode, I want to just kind of say that, like, all right, we're officially done season 1. This podcast episode, which really kind of I'm calling episodes 19 and 20 of the podcast. The the season of the animated series might be done, but what we're gonna do, and I don't, because I still have to release the thing. I don't know timing wise what's going to happen, but the plan going forward is we still have more of season 1 of this podcast left. We might take a couple weeks off from releasing, but we are going to, I think the next thing we're going to do is the M. Night Shyamalan movie, correct?
Right. Yeah. We're going to try and see if we can get together in the same room, because I feel like that bears watching with a friend to have them experience it the first time.
Right. So we'll do that, and then we'll record an episode about that. Maybe I'll have a recorder with me, and I'll just like record like the actual like reactions, like live reactions. We can play some of that as well.
Yeah.
But and then I think as part of season 1 of the podcast, we're also, after that movie, maybe we'll take another couple weeks off. But then we're also going to include season 1 of the live action show as part of season 1 of this podcast.
Right. Yeah. I think going forward, it's going to be tougher to do that because we don't know when season 2 of the live action is going to drop.
Right.
But we certainly have plenty of other material in the Avatar universe to play with, including the rest of Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, and if we really needed to go elsewhere, there's the books, there's the games, there's the tabletop experience. Like, there's a lot to do.
Right. I could envision us eventually doing special episodes for the comic books. I will say that I think there's a high percentage that will eventually do something with the tabletop role playing game as well.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a good chance that we should. I haven't dipped into it yet to see what kind of spoilers are there. I would assume that there's a decent amount of spoilers for Avatar, maybe not Legend of Korra. So we might be able to do that in between the two of them.
Yeah.
But let's see.
I haven't opened. We both got the box. I haven't opened it yet to see what's in it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get spoiled yet. Yeah. So eventually we'll figure that out. But yeah, we obviously we both have the game, so I think it's something that we'll likely end up doing down the road. But gosh, it's been a wild ride doing this, especially for this first season, because from a production point of view, we really for the last like month and a half have gone through almost half the season recording 2 episodes a day, almost, once a week.
Right.
So production for this, and I should call it pre-production because we haven't released a thing yet, has been like a wild journey because it's been like scrambling to make it work, so that we could get done by like mid-June so that we don't have to worry about recording over the summer, because it gets a lot more difficult for me to record over the summer. But I'm excited to like get this out in the world. I'm excited to move on to the other parts of the Avatar universe. And I'm with that. I'm really hopeful that it will feel less daunting because we're doing maybe an episode a week versus 2 episodes a week.
Right. Yeah, I think we can kind of slow down. We know that the second season doesn't have to be done as quickly, so we can kind of digest things at an easier pace. And I think that now that we're a little bit deeper into the richness of the world, it'll be probably longer episodes where we'll talk about things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the episodes just got that much more meatier and why we started recording longer, or if just having experienced the world more, it got longer. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll
you
find
gotta figure
out.
There's future stuff to talk about. There's previous things that we can call back to. So I mean, just the richness of the world as it grows gives us more fodder, so to speak, of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but like I said, season 1's not done. We just might be taking a couple weeks off before we air the next episode, which will be us talking about the M. Night Shyamalan movie, which it's wild to think about like that man's career and how like there is such a roller coaster there, and that this seems to be at near the bottom based off of everything I've heard of that career, especially since I just saw a preview for a newer movie for him that looks so good. But I'm excited to sit down and watch it because like I am so much more forgiving of a lot of things than you are. So I'm really interested, considering that like even The Great Divide, I've had some good things to say about. So really excited to see how I feel about this movie.
There's one scene in particular that I am so excited for you to see because of how bad it is. I mean, wait, I want you to go in with a fresh opinion. No, it's very funny. And it might be one of those things where like I take you online afterwards to there was an episode of Quarter Digital Reacts where they took one of those scenes and looked through it, and it might be fun to watch them do it as well.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so we'll take a few weeks off, hit that movie, and then we'll move on into the first season of the live action. But for us in the real world, not in the podcast world, for us, I'm like a little excited to take a step back for a couple months from Avatar. Probably a couple weeks. I think the movie we're gonna watch soon, but
right.
I think the live action series we might not be hitting until the fall for us.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So like to kind of like take a sit back and relax for a little bit is going to be exciting. Just to like for my mental health. And I mean, again, because this was obviously a journey in itself, from a production standpoint, from a recording standpoint and stuff, but also like just the storytelling was so well done, and a roller coaster in more so an emotional sense, like not a quality sense. It was pretty much always on the up and up. If I had to give, this episode I think was just as good as episode. We didn't even do that part of the show, Mike.
I know we skipped that. We skipped trivia, but I wove them in because I knew that we were hitting 2 hours.
Yeah. So, but this episode, I think was just as good as episode 19. I think it was, if you're combining both as a series finale or a season finale episode, like just really well done as a 2-parter. I would, if I had to guess, IMDb probably gave this like a 9.5 ish.
Yeah, pretty close. It gave it a 9.6.
Okay.
And they gave, like I said, they gave the other one 9.3. I actually think that I preferred the original, like the first episode, a little bit more. But this episode was the 4th overall for the entire series of Avatar.
That doesn't surprise me. It's so good. And I probably, like I said, I liked it, I think just as much. So I gave the other one like somewhere between a 9.5 and a 9.8. I think this would probably be in the same range.
Yeah.
Maybe a point lower or a point higher. Even though I watched them this morning, they go together so well. It's hard for me to separate them as 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so good. And what I'm so happy I got turned on to this world from you. So, and we have at least at least how many seasons of Korra are there?
4.
So we have at least 6 more seasons of a podcast to do.
Right. And honestly, I mean, we got the 2 live action series seasons that are coming still. And we know that they're doing movies, and we know that they're doing a Earthbender show that takes place after Korra.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of material still for this podcast.
So I'll be curious to see if we ever catch up to like their release schedule.
Right. There's going to be a lot. So,
all right. Well, for Avatar State Radio, I am Kev, the last podbender. You can find me on the internet at That Nerdy Kev on most social media channels. You can hit me up at thatnerdykev.com as well. And I say that it's thatnerdykev.com, not the @ symbol. Thatnerdykev.com. I'm also the host of the Everything is Awesome podcast. You can find that on awesomepodcast.com. Mike, tell them about you, Mr. Avatar State.
So you can find me at tellust.com. That'll take you to a lot of the other places that you want to go. But I also do live Twitch streams on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and we're going to expand that soon. You can find me there at twitch.tv/thattellustguy.
And hell, by the time this is released, that's going to be expanded already. So,
right.
All right. For Mike and for myself, thank you for listening to Avatar State Radio. We'll catch you next time right here on avatarstateradio.com.